In this chapter, we're going to look at personal finance and budgets. In this lesson, we're going to talk about preparing to make a budget. All right, hi everybody. So, in this chapter, we're looking at personal finance and specifically budgets, and now we're going to look at how to make a budget or preparing a budget here, okay? So, there's a little bit to talk about here before we start looking at some specific problems here. So, here we go. I'm just going to kind of walk you through a lot of this material here. So this chapter is about personal finance, and just like it says here, that's it. It is personal. This is your money, okay? It's all the money decisions that you make every day. It's all about that, like figuring out when you're going to spend, when you're going to save, and so on and so forth. So when you make the right decisions, you're managing your money, but wrong decisions can lead to your money problems managing you, okay? And it's not hard to fall into financial problems, to money problems, just because you're not managing your money, you're not being careful and deliberate about your spending. So just think about your current money situation. You might have an income or a part-time job, or your parents might be paying you. Okay, what do you do with your money? Okay, do you just put it in your pocket? Do you spend it? Like, do you have a plan? Okay, do you allow yourself a certain amount of money to spend and then kind of rein things in? Are you saving? Okay, if you make it a habit to plan and set goals for your money, it's going to last longer, and you could actually end up paying cash for your own car, or maybe even, and it is possible, to graduate debt-free from university or college. So let's talk about financial goal setting. Like it says here, you want to think about what it is you want to accomplish. Like, do you want to buy a vehicle? Do you want to move out? Okay, out of the home and get out there on your own. Okay, you're going to need to be able to manage your money to make that work. So in this little section here, it says, what are your personal financial goals for the next 10 years? Okay, now just take a moment or two and just think about that. What is it that you want to achieve? Maybe write some of those ideas down. Can't do that for you. That's a personal thing. Okay, but take some time and take a look at that. A lot of times those goals require a lot of money that you probably don't have right now here. So that's why you gotta make a plan. So as the money comes in, that you've got it kind of divvied into certain places here. You want to be saving. Now, clearly you can't save all of your money. You got to spend a little bit here and there, but you want to try to rein that in and manage that. So, okay, the family can of course help you achieve those goals, but you might not be able to rely heavily on them. So you're probably going to have to manage your own money here. So setting and planning to achieve personal financial goals is critically important, and there's two ways to do that. You're going to budget and save your money, or you might have to borrow money and take on some debt. Okay. Now on the surface, like it says here, it looks like most Canadians are doing quite well with their money. Okay, you see a lot of people with nice houses, fancy cars, expensive jewelry, and all the latest technology, but some of them really cannot afford those things. They've got them, and they're allowed to have them, but they're using, like it says here, they're using debt to pay for it. Okay, in fact, that's what we call keeping up with the Joneses. When people get into this trap of being in debt, basically to keep up the appearances that they can actually afford those things. And it's a dangerous one to get into because it does catch up with people eventually. Let's keep going here. So borrowing money from anyone other than family is never free. And even sometimes from family it's not free. Every time you borrow, there's going to be a debt you're going to pay there in interest. Okay? Now, depending on how long you want to pay that money back, that cost of borrowing the money can even double or worse. Now, it depends on a lot of things, and we've seen those over previous lessons here. But yeah, it depends on how long you're going to pay and what the interest rate is. So here's some interesting information about 2019 debt facts. The average Canadian has $72,950 in personal debt. Okay, that's how much they owe. The average Canadian has $2,627 in credit card debt. Now, we were talking about that before. That's a dangerous one because the interest rates tend to be really, really high on credit cards, which means that debt tends to grow quite quickly. The average Canadian household has $20,967 in non-mortgage debt. Okay, so it's one thing to see that huge debt there, but if that's a mortgage you're trying to pay off, well, okay, understandably, that's a huge loan here. $20,000, $967 in non-mortgage debt. That's a lot of money. That's probably a car in there. That could be, like it says here, it could be student loan debt. Here, the average Canadian student graduates with $35,397 in student loan debt. Okay, because you got to pay that back. All the debt leads to another big problem: paycheck to paycheck living. Okay, so here's another bit of information. Almost 72% of Canadians use all of the money they get from one paycheck just to make it to the next. In other words, they're not getting ahead. They're not saving. Because of all of this debt that they've accumulated, and they have to try to get rid of that debt, the paycheck just goes to that. Okay? Because a big chunk of everyone's paycheck goes to their monthly debt payments and interest, they can't save any money for emergencies or big purchases. Something to consider here. So they go even deeper into debt to pay for those things too, right? And so it's just a spiral effect. So it's important to want to have a plan to be able to address this issue so it doesn't happen to you. But debt isn't the only problem. Okay? So personal finance does involve some math, and it's mostly about, once you do the math, understanding your behavior. Okay? Life and money habits like budgeting, investing, goal setting, giving, establishing healthy boundaries in personal relationships, okay, furthering your skills and education, all of that impacts your finances. Okay? All of that. Okay? And money actually affects all of that. Because your personal finance is only 20% head knowledge and about 80% behavior. And man, that is a tough one there. It's one thing to know, okay, it's one thing to know that you can't afford, for example, to keep buying that specialty coffee every day of the week, because that's a lot of money. Okay, over time it builds up, right? But it's hard not to go there once you've established that habit. So once you establish a budget for your money, you have to have the personal discipline and emotional maturity to stick it through. And that's tough. Okay, that's tough for everybody. So learning to budget. Why? This unit is about learning to manage your personal finances and to budget and save your money to pay for your financial goals, rather than just take on debt to pay for your goals, right? Because remember, when you take on that debt, granted, you might get those things that you want sooner. You're going to pay an awful lot more for them in the long run when you put those all together, right? You're going to spend a lot of the money that you make just paying interest back. So there are some times when taking on debt is necessary because the amount of money for a goal is simply too much to completely save for it. And like a house, most of us will not be able to just pay cash for a house. But learning to budget will help minimize the amount of debt you take on, allowing your money to be yours earlier in life. Learning to budget also puts you firmly in charge of your money. Okay, you're not at the whim of the institutions that you're borrowing money from. Okay, you have a lot more control. A couple budgeting myths. A budget holds you back. Actually, in fact, a budget propels you forward. Okay, it might not seem like it up front. Okay, when you're having to make decisions, particularly if you've got a group of people you're with that really aren't managing their money and are making decisions that maybe aren't the wisest. Okay, it's easy to feel like you're being held back. Okay, so maybe once you were stuck spending half of your paycheck on takeout food, but now you have an emergency fund, you are now saving for post-secondary, and you still have money set aside for fun things. The next time you splurge on a takeout, you can do it guilt-free. Okay, instead of doing it like spending that money and realizing, I shouldn't be doing this. Okay, once you've got things under control, you can do that. You can splurge every once in a while and do it guilt-free. A budget is a ball and chain. You're in control of your budget. Okay, now you remember, you're making these decisions here, and so you're submitting to your budget, but those are your choices there, and that's important to remember. The budget is your choice. So if there's something you want to do or buy, you budget for it. Okay, and you're making those decisions there. Okay, the budget isn't controlling you. You are choosing to follow this budget here. So you want a vacation? Okay, you need a massage, you're reaching for a new pair of shoes, simply work it into the budget. Okay, and reduce another spending category to even things out. Find a way in your money to make those things work for you. Let's keep going. Now, another myth here: a budget is the end-all, be-all. Okay, it is changeable. Okay, once you've set a budget, that doesn't mean that it's set in stone and there's no flexibility there, right? It has to be flexible because life situations change, things change. Your income changes, your expenses change as life goes on here. So just because you could only spend $50 on entertainment last month doesn't mean that you couldn't turn around and do something different in the next month. Okay, you just gotta realize that it's a flexible tool here and not be nailed down to it. A budget takes forever and complicated. Okay, here we go. Fun fact: it takes longer to brush your teeth in a month than it does to make a budget. There are many budgeting apps and spreadsheets that are customizable and do all of the math for you. There are tons of them out there. Okay, in fact, if you tend to suffer from analysis paralysis, in other words, you want to look at all your options before you move forward here. Well, there's maybe too many for that. Okay, there's a lot of budgeting software out there, so you just got to pick one. Okay, and they're all pretty good. I should say there's a lot of really good ones out there. Is probably a better thing to say here. Or how about this? I don't have enough money to budget. Okay, another common reason people don't budget is because they feel they don't have enough money. Okay, they're broke. Why would they bother budgeting? I'm broke. And it can be scary to write down all the money you have going out each month. But you need to see it. Okay, you need to understand. You're only going to get control over those things that you understand or that you know. Knowledge is power in this case. So budgeting is a pretty strong dose of reality. Okay, to really truly understand how you spend. Okay, and that can be hard. So seeing the truth of your situation will help you understand your lack of income or huge pile of expenses so that you do something about it. And granted, that can be uncomfortable, but it's moving you forward. Okay, it's giving you power. So yeah, it's uncomfortable, but man, it's pays off in the end here. Many people forego a budget and simply hope that things will work out magically. If that's you, it's essential that you make a budget so you can make the best choices with your money. A budget can also help you see areas that you can cut back on to make choices in your situation to help you free up some much needed cash. Okay, it's about priorities, is what this is saying here. Like maybe you're finding that that specialty coffee that you are buying every day is taking away so much money that maybe you're having a hard time saving enough to get a car. It can be like that, right? I mean, you could be putting that money towards the payment for a car, but you're making these choices, and maybe you don't see that until you make that budget. So here we go. Budgets. A budget is simply a plan to manage your money, pay for your needs and your wants. It's a statement of the balance, or I like the fact that that's there, lack of balance between income and expenses. So here's your basic budget formula, your surplus or deficit. This is total income minus total expenses, and you're hoping that that's a positive number, not a negative number. Now, 4 components to a budget here. There's income, there's giving, savings, and spending. So income, this is money that comes in, and it doesn't really matter what source as long as it's coming in. Okay, that could be your job, it could be gifts, it could be things that you're selling, maybe all sorts of things. Expenses, money that pays out. And there's 3 major categories here. There's giving. Giving is the first priority in your budget. This is where you decide how you're going to be generous with the money that you have. Okay, and I know some people don't think about it that often here, but that's a liberating thing when you can give to like a charity or give to church, give to whatever you're giving to here. When you're at a stage where you can do that and work that into your budget here, you've really taken control. Okay, and you can now bless other people with your giving, with your money here. Savings is your next priority. Okay, you put money away so that you have it for the future. And then spending includes everything else, and that's not just spending it on fun stuff. That's mostly spending it on stuff that is just life stuff, like your bills, your food, your shelter, gas, car payments, all that stuff. Both income and expenses can be further categorized or described as fixed income or expense. That's an amount that remains the same from month to month. I know it's coming. I know how much it is. It's fixed. Variable is an amount that varies in dollar amount, but from month to month. Okay, you can expect to have it every month. It's going to be there. It's just it might not be the same amount per month here. Like for example, your gas, okay, or your food. You know you're going to spend that money every month, but it might change from month to month. Intermittent is an amount that occurs sporadically at various times throughout the year, and these tend to be a little bit larger. Okay, not something that you can necessarily rely on. They just kind of happen. Then discretionary, non-essential. This is an expense that on things that you don't need, but you want. Now, those aren't necessarily bad things. Where that becomes problematic is when the wants become prioritized over the needs. Okay, I want some technology here. I can't really afford it, and so now all of a sudden I'm being forced to alter the way I deal with my needs. Okay, that becomes problematic. So those are things you want to watch out for. Okay, sorry, I was just looking to see if there was a little bit more to that. Let's take a look at some questions now. Okay, so the essential skill we want to get at here is classifying or categorizing the income and expenses for budgeting purposes. We're going to do the following practice questions here. So we want to make sure that we're classifying things correctly. So use the table below to identify the component of a budget each of the following belongs to. Okay, so it's income, giving, savings, or spending. So here we go. So down here, I've got my little table here. We're going to throw things in here. So first of all, $1,250, that is an income for sure. Okay, that's my monthly salary. Okay, birthday gift for your sister. Okay, well that's a gift, right? So this is the sister's gift. Interest from the $45 payment. Sorry, investment here. Well, interest is something that comes in here. So interest is money that's going to come to me. Now, putting your pocket change into a piggy bank. Well, okay, that's savings. Okay, that's your pocket change there. So you're putting it in the piggy bank. You're still not spending it, so that's good here. Tips from your shift work. Okay, well, there we go. Tips, that's income. Donating $10 to your local church. Okay, there we go. That's donating. That's a gift. A commission of 20% on the sales for the week. Hey, commission. Commission is an income. And then $20 into an RRSP. Okay, well, that is going to be savings, right? Because that's you depositing it here. So this is our RRSP. Now here we go. Birthday gift from Grandma. Oh, there. Birthday gift. B-Day gift. That's an income. Oh, here we go. Electricity bill. Well, there's spending. So there's electricity bill. That is definitely money going out. $125 in overtime pay. Well, there you go here. Overtime. Excellent. Overtime pay. That's good. New cell phone. $125 a month. Okay. That is spending. There's our cell phone. We'll just leave it like that. $325 per week mortgage payment. Ooh, well, that's expenditure. Mortgage, yeah. Babysitting. Okay, babysitting. There's money coming in. Meal out at a restaurant. Okay, that is going to be a spending. Car repair. Oh boy, yeah, car repair. Yeah, that's got to get done. And then buying lunch for a friend here. Okay, well that's giving. You're giving your friend some lunch there. So this is lunch for a friend. Okay, and so there you go. gives you a little bit of an idea of how we classify these things. Okay, for this question, we're being asked to classify the following sources of income as fixed, variable, or intermediate. Okay? Intermittent. Sorry. And provide the reason here. So I'm going to try to go through this relatively quickly so I'm not bogging you down with this. Monthly paycheck. Okay, so that could be fixed. Actually, that could be variable. It depends on your job. Okay, so yeah, it depends on job. You might have a job where you get the same amount of money every time you do it, but then maybe you got a job like it's an hourly wage and your shifts are sort of different one week to the next year, okay? Receiving a birthday present, okay, that's intermittent. Okay, this is not monthly. Okay, not monthly, and you know the cost, you don't know what that's going to be. Variable is going to be tips. Okay, they're just inconsistent. Okay, I mean it depends on what you're doing and the people that you're working with. Tax refund, that is intermittent. That is not monthly. Interest from an investment. Okay, now again, that could be fixed or variable. It depends on the investment. Okay, it depends on just the rules for the particular investment that you're working with. Commission is going to be variable. Okay, this depends on your sales. Christmas bonus. Okay, the Christmas bonus is intermittent. Okay, this is once per year. Okay, it's not a regular thing. I mean, it could be regular every year, but it's not like a monthly thing. Overtime pay. Overtime is variable, right? That depends on time. Okay, it depends on the time how much time you're working. Donations from a GoFundMe. That's going to be intermittent. Okay, those are inconsistent. Not only that, it's both time and amount that it's inconsistent in. Okay, the CERB from the government. Okay, that's going to be intermittent. These are basically just lump sums. And it's just there was just a few of them. Okay, so it wasn't something that happens all the time every month. Those were special payments that happened for a little while there. Bonus from the job performance, that is going to be intermittent. Okay, these are just lump sum. Okay, at various times. Kind of depends how things are going there. Profit from the sale of your sofa, that's intermittent. This is a one-time sale thing. I mean unless you're buying and selling your sofa every month, that's just a one-time thing. Rutherford Scholarship. Well, scholarships are intermittent. These are lump sums. Child tax benefit. Again, that's intermittent. That's a lump sum, and it's just kind of a one-time payment here. Now, that might happen kind of like on a regular basis or anything, but it's this one lump sum that you get there. Anyway, allowance from parents, that's usually fixed. Okay, and it's regular, and it's usually the same amount. Bi-weekly salary, that's going to be fixed. Okay, basically it's the same sort of thing. Bi-weekly salary. Salary runs like that, as opposed to a wage, right? A salary is payment that you get for doing a job, and it's a set sum. Wage tends to be per hour or per time. Inheritance from a grandparent, that is going to be intermittent. This tends to be like a lump sum, okay? And not, I mean, you're not going to get that kind of over and over and over again. Anyway, hopefully that kind of gives you a sense of how we might break those things down into their different classifications, fixed, variable, or intermediate. I did it again. Not intermediate, intermittent. All right, well, another essential skill for working with budgets here is creating categories for the expenses, okay? So not only identifying whether they're fixed, variable, or intermittent, or discretionary, you want to group the expenses together, right? Into different categories. So like one way of thinking about it here is you've got like transportation, you've got housing, maybe you've got like miscellaneous for those little things that you're not sure what to do with here. Now there's a question here that where they go through and they have a whole bunch of different expenses that could pop up here. Now, I'm not going to go through and do all of this because really this could vary from person to person how you see this. But just to give you some ideas, maybe you've got a category that's transportation. So what have we got here? There was someone here, we've got a bus fare, right? Vehicle insurance. There's other things, gas, so on and so forth. It might all be locked under transportation. But you might split those things up, right? You might, for example, have an insurance category, and then we're going to put like house insurance, renter's insurance, car insurance in there. That might be another way of splitting that all up. You might have one that's utilities, and you put your gas and your phone, maybe your, your electricity and so on and so forth into the utilities category. You could have a category that's entertainment, okay, where you put in your like movies, your new Xbox sort of thing, and so on and so forth. There's lots of different ways you can categorize these things, and that's kind of a personal decision. So that's the sort of thing I would leave up to you to take some time and have a look through these examples of expenses here and kind of think how you would categorize those. Okay? Another skill that's important for working with budgets here are going to be percentages, and it actually helps to work with circle graphs. Okay, so many times when you're budgeting, you want to know what percentage of your total income is going to a certain category. Okay, so for example, how much of my total budget goes to housing costs? Okay, and so that could be your utilities, your mortgage, the whole bit here, just to have an idea. And it helps to have a visual representation of what your spending is going to look like. So you want to be able to calculate percentages and then maybe use that, for example, to calculate the corresponding degree for the sector angle in a circle, so that you can build a bar graph, so that you got a really good idea of the comparison of the different categories in your budget to each other. Okay? Now, again, there's lots of apps out there that can help with this, but you should also have an idea of what's going on so that you could do it by hand. And actually, being able to do it by hand, when you move over to an app or a spreadsheet, it gives you just that little bit more confidence in what's going on and a little bit of understanding of what's going on there. So anyway, we're going to take a look at a question. So this question says, Jeremy works in West Edmonton Mall Water Park. Okay, as a lifeguard, and earns $1,107.69 bi-weekly. Okay, so his average monthly expenses work out to be this. Now we're going to calculate the percentage of his total income each category represents. Okay, well, first of all, what we're going to do, what we want to do here is figure out the percentages that each one of these things are of his total here. Now, it also helps just to have a really quick rundown. Let's just add those all up there. 760 plus 140 plus 400 plus 175 plus 200 plus 140, 40 plus 180. Oh, I'm sorry, you can't really see that. Plus 180 plus 345. Okay, and so there's my 2,340. Is that... Okay, actually, let's go back here. We're going to edit this here. Let's say that I think there was a bit of a mistake here. I think his monthly income here should have been 1170. Okay, and then we're going to take a look at his average monthly expenses. Just to make this easy here, we're going to make sure that his expenses here match his income, okay, what comes in and so on and so forth. Okay, so now with that in mind, what we can do here is calculate the percent that each of these is from the total here. So we know, we know that the total is going to be 2340. Now what we're going to do is we're going to convert each one of these into a percentage. And then we're going to convert that percentage into a degree. Okay? A degree of the 360. Okay, so degree of the circle here. So for example, rent, $760 out of 2,340. Okay, we're just going to divide that out here. That is going to amount to 32%. Now, 32% of 360 of the full circle is going to amount to 114 degrees. Now, just to show you the calculation that I'm doing here, so that we can kind of move through this, and then what I'll do is I'll do the same calculations over and over again to move through this quicker. I'm going to take that 760, I'm going to divide that by 2340, so there's my 32, and then I'll multiply that by 360. Oh, that's 117. Okay, so maybe what I'll do is I'll keep these this here, and we'll just go through and do all of these. Just to make sure I didn't make a mistake here. So 140 divided by 2340. This is going to be, what is that, 5? Let's make it 6%. I'm going to do the rounding there, so we're going to round that to 6%. And then 6%, multiply that by 360, 22 degrees. 400 divided by 2340. Okay, so it's, what is that, 17.1? So 17%. Multiply that by 360. So 62 degrees. Whoops. 175 divided by 2340. Okay, so 7.5. That's 7%. Multiply that by 360. And we got, what is that, 27 degrees. 200 divided by 2340 is 9% times 360. Be 31 degrees. And here we are, well, the 140, we already know that 140 was 6%. And so that's going to be 22 degrees. We know that. Let's go back to 180 divided by 2340. Okay, what is that? It's 8%. Multiply that by 360. 28 degrees. And then finally, this 345 divided by 2340 is 15%. Multiply that by 360, we get 53 degrees. Okay, so now we've got, roughly speaking here, the percentages, what percentage of the income is going to all of these different categories of expenses here. And now we've got the percentages that we can use. Now, it'd be nice to use some software. Like it'd be great if I could pull out a protractor here, measure out all those angles. That has been done. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to show you right here. If we take a quick look at these two together here. Oh, I hope I can fit them in there. Oh, not quite. Hold on a second. We'll go up a little higher here. But it has been done for us here. So, for example, here's my rent. Okay, and notice my rent over here. Rent was 117 degrees. There's my 117 degrees sector angle. And rent takes up a big chunk, okay, of all that. Another big chunk here is my food at 62 degrees. Okay, and then other here took up a big one too at 53 degrees. Now, other expenses, remember, that could be like discretionary things you're doing for, that just kind of pop up, things that you need here and there. Just stuff that doesn't fall into those categories. But here, that gives you an idea of how all of these categories are weighted with respect to each other. Because it's one thing to look at the numbers here. That might not communicate a lot to you. It's another thing to see them kind of laid out and see how they are matched up against each other proportionally. All right, now for this question we read that Patricia has budgeted to put 12% of her monthly income into a savings to save some money for university. Now, assuming she works 25 hours a week at $15.65 an hour and loses 22% of her gross pay in deductions and taxes, how much will she save each month? Okay, so let's try to figure this out here. So here we go here. So she's working 25 hours a week. Okay, so 25 hours a week at $15.65. So this is how much she's going to make in a week, and we're going to multiply that by 4 for the 4 weeks in a month. Okay. Now, she is going to lose 20% of her gross pay deductions and taxes, okay? Now, that means that she's not going to have that money. She's not even going to see that money come in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply that by, 0.22, and we're going to subtract that. So we're actually going to take that 1565, and we are going to subtract from that 344.3. So this is how much she's actually going to take home, okay, in a month. That deductions and taxes, that will come off her paycheck right off the top, so she won't even see it. So now she is budgeted 12% of her monthly income, so the stuff that actually comes in is going to go to savings for the university. So now we're going to take and multiply that by 0.12, 12% of that, and that means each month she is going to save $146.48. Okay? And now, how much will she save in a year? Well, we're going to multiply that by 12, and we get $1,757.81. Okay, and that's how much she's going to save in a year.